All right, this is factoring day 1, take 2. This one I'm going to do the box method, which is my preferred method. It just makes more sense to me, so I recommend it, but you can use the other method if you'd like. So what is the box method? Really, it uses the idea that when you multiply, you can use a box to organize your work. So when you take 3x times x plus 5, x plus 3 times x plus 5, it's a 2 by 2. Sorry, I don't know why that keeps glitching. So x plus 3 times x plus 5. X times x is x squared. 3 times x is 3x. X times 5 is 5x, and 3 times 5 is 15. Then you combine like terms. So I have 1x squared, and then I have a 5x and a 3x, so together that makes plus 8x, and then I have a 15, so plus 15. So multiplying those two factors together gives me the trinomial x squared plus 8x plus 15. Factoring is the reverse of multiplying, and so I want to go back and write x squared plus 8x plus 15 as two factors. And to do that with the box method, you work backwards. So you know that the first term is going to go in the first box and the last term goes in the last box. Then I knew that the middle terms added up to 8x. So I have to think, well, what multiplies to 15 but adds up to 8? That's 3 times 5, which means those go on the inside here, 3x and 5x. Then you take out the greatest common factor of each row or column. So look at this first spot, x squared. The only way to get x squared is x times x. So I know that it goes x times x. Then x times what gives me 3x, it'd be 3. And then x times what here would give me 5x, would be 5. And then just check that 5 times 3 is 15 in the last box, which means my factors then are x and 3, so x plus 3, and x and 5, which is x plus 5. So we can use the box to work backwards. The box isn't always needed, especially if your a value, your leading coefficient, is 1. You can use it every time, but it's not necessary for some of the easier problems because we have these patterns. The patterns tell us, like, if we have two positives in our trinomial, then our factors will both be positive. If we have a negative at the end but a positive in the middle, then we will have one of each, one positive factor and one negative factor, but the positive one will be the larger factor. If it's positive at the end but adds up to negative in the middle, you're going to have both of them have to be negative, because two negatives multiplied together will give you the positive at the end, but then add up to a negative number in the middle. And then this one, if it's negative at the end but adds up to negative in the middle, well, then you have one of each again, because a positive times a negative is a negative. But then the negative one is going to be larger because it'll add up to a negative number in the middle when you multiply it back out. So I'm talking when you FOIL this back out, the middle terms will add up to a negative in the middle. So kind of like when I multiplied this out, the middle terms are adding together to make that either positive or negative spot. So let me do a couple examples to show you how that works. So if a equals 1, which means you just have an x squared, you can start by doing x times x, because that's the only way to get x squared. Now this one is negative on the end and negative in the middle, which means that to make a negative number, you have to have one positive and one negative. Since it adds up to a negative in the middle, your larger factor will be negative. So think about numbers that multiply to 20 that you can make 8 out of. So you can make 8 out of 10 and 2. To make negative 8, 10 has to be negative and 2 has to be positive. Let me show you exactly what I mean then. When you multiply this back out, x times x is x squared. X times negative 10 is negative 10x. 2 times x is 2x. And 2 times negative 10 is negative 20. So there's the negative 20 at the end. And then right here, negative 10x plus 2x is giving me my negative 8x. And so my answer for that one would be x plus 2 times x minus 10. So here, this example, it multiplies to positive 50 but adds up to negative 15, which means that both of your factors need to be negative, because a negative times a negative is the only way to get a positive but adds up to negative. So then what two numbers multiply to 50 but add up to 15? It'd be 5 times 10. And actually negative 5 times negative 10 multiply to positive 15 but add up to negative 15 in the middle. Okay, the bottom one right here, this is x squared again, so it's x times x. It multiplies to a negative on the end, so you're going to have one positive and one negative. This time your positive factor is going to be larger because it has to add up to a positive 6 in the middle. So 16 to make 6, we got 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 4 and 4. The only way you can make 6 is with 2 and 8. And it's actually 8 minus 2, so it'll be positive 8 and negative 2. Because then you have 8x and negative 2x, and that'll equal 6x. The last one, it's x squared again, so it's x times x. And we have a positive at the end, adds up to a positive, which means both your factors will be positive. Multiplies to 6 and adds up to 5. So 1 times 6 or 2 times 3. It has to be 2 times 3 because they both have to be positive, which means you can't use the 1 and 6. So 2 and 3. Remember, you can always multiply it back out to check your answer. So those were when a was equal to 1. That means your coefficient. So I'm talking ax squared plus bx plus c. A equals 1 means that it's a 1x squared out front. Those ones are easier because you know that the only way to make x squared is x times x. Multiplies to be positive, so it has to be 2 negatives. Multiplies to 9 but adds up to negative 10. It's going to be negative 1 times negative 9. So it's x minus 1, x minus 9. So you don't need the box when a equals 1, but you can use it. If you want to use the box for these ones, you put the first term, x squared, in the first box and the last term in the last box. And then you say, okay, same thing, what multiplies to 8 but adds up to 6? That's 2 times 4. Those go in the diagonals then, and in either way it doesn't matter. 2x times 4x. And then you figure out the outside. So x squared has to be x times x. Then x times 2 is 2x, and x times 4 is 4x, and 2 times 4 is 8. So that gives me the factors x plus 2 and x plus 4. Okay, to do this one, using the box now, a is not equal to 1, so it's a little bit trickier. You put your first term here, 2x squared, and then you put the last term here, negative 6. Now, since you have a 2 and a negative 6, you multiply those together. So you do 2 times negative 6 is negative 12. Then you find factors of negative 12 that are going to add up to negative 11. That would be negative 12 times positive 1. Multiplies to negative 12, adds up to a negative 11. I took the a value times the c value. So you're doing a times c that add up to b. So you find factors of a times c that add up to your b value. Then you put those values in the diagonal, so negative 12x and 1x, because in the middle you want a negative 11x. That was your goal. Then you figure out the outside of the box. So 2x squared is going to be 2x times x. You need to figure out where the 2 goes. It's going to go right here in this spot, since we have a 2x and a 12x here. So if I put the 2x here, I wouldn't be able to multiply it by anything to make it x down here. So my 2x can't go there. 2x has to go here. 1x has to go here. Then 2x times what would give me negative 12? Since 2x times negative 6 is negative 12x, the negative 6 goes there. Then x times what is 1x? It'd be 1. Then your factors are x minus 6 from the top, and then along the side it'd be 2x plus 1. This method is also sometimes referred to as the AC split method, and you can do that without the box. So if you're interested in looking that up, AC split, you can find a ton of factoring videos. So if you're confused, try looking at different factoring videos. Someone's got to be able to have a method out there that'll help you. This is my go-to one. It's a little bit easier too when I can actually point at the examples and show you what I'm talking about, but hopefully you can follow along okay here. So put your first term in the first spot, 2x squared. Put the second term in the last box, 6, or the last term in the last box. Then you multiply those two together. So 2 times 6 is 12 again. This time I want to add it up to 7. I want these middle terms to add up to 7. So I need two numbers that multiply to 12 but add up to 7. That's 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. 3 times 4 adds up to 7. So 3x and 4x. Then figure out the outside of the box. So if I look at these two, they only have an x in common, so x has to go there. If I look at these two, they have a 2 and an x in common. So the 2x has to go on top. Then 2x times x is 2x squared. Then x times what gives me 3x. X times 3 is 3x. Then 2x times 2x times 2 is 4x. And then 2 times 3 is 6. So that works out. And that means that this is 2x and a positive 3, so 2x plus 3, and an x and a positive 2 is x plus 2. Now you already have this multiplied back out here using the box, so it's kind of like you've already checked your answer. All right, a couple more. So we make the box. We put our first term, 3x squared, in the first spot. The last term, negative 20, in the last spot. Then you multiply that 3 times negative 20, which is negative 60. And then you have to find factors of negative 60 that add up to 17, because that's what you want the middle term to add up to, is 17x. So, I don't know, 1 times 60, 2 times 30, 3 times 20. That one works. It works if you make the 3 negative and leave the 20 positive, because 20 minus 3 is 17, which means you can put them in any spot here. So one is going to be negative 3x and one will be 20x. You could put those in the reverse spots though, like you could put the negative 3x down here and the 20x here. It doesn't matter as long as you wait till the end to fill out the outside of your box. If I set it up like this, then since these two both have a 3 in them, my 3x goes here, and then I have to put 3x times x to get 3x squared. Then x times 20 gives me 20x, and then 3x times negative 1 is negative 3x, and then negative 1 times 20 is negative 20. So my answer is 3x plus 20 and x minus 1. All right. $10x squared goes in the first spot, and 3 goes in the last spot. 10 times 3 is 30. Multiples of 30 that add up to 17 again. So 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10. 2 and 15 would work. If they're both positive, it adds up to 17. So that means 2x and 15x. And then what do these two have in common? That would go right here. It would be 2x. And then 2x times 5x would give me 10x squared. Then 5x times 3 here would give me 15x squared. And 2x times 1 would give me 2x. and 1 times 3 is 3. So my answer would be 5x plus 1 times 2x plus 3. All right. Hopefully between one of these methods, you find something that works for you. And if not, you should go out and search a different teacher looking at YouTube. Check out Khan Academy. There's literally hundreds of videos on factoring. So find something that works for you. And I can, of course, help you as well. So connect with me if you need more